Again on a Monday. Today is Monday, September 12th, 2022, which means we're exactly 1 week away from the 39th anniversary of our country's independence. And guess who's in the house? She hasn't been here for a very long time, but whenever she's here, it is very exciting. Our special guest tonight is J.D. Keynes, number one in number one, and you're assured of gains with Keynes. We're in for a fun evening tonight. By my reckoning, J.D., since the federal elections in St. Kitts and Nevis were called on Sunday, July 17, 2022, you've not been here. It's going on 2 months. What have you been up to, fine lady?
Good evening, Mr. Manners, and I want to say a special good evening to everyone listening in Radio Land. It's definitely a pleasure to be here on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan Radio, once again after such a long time. But of course, we know that the federal election took priority for some time, and so we were giving our federal candidates the opportunity to, hear their views and encourage persons to do the right thing, and that is to support the Nevis Reformation Party. Even though I wasn't here at Vaughan Radio cheering for the candidates, I was behind the scenes working, particularly as it relates to Nevis 9, trying to encourage as many persons as possible to support the NRP's candidate, Dr. Patricia Bartlett. But it's definitely a pleasure to be here, and I've been up to quite a lot, and I'm sure I'll have the opportunity this evening to speak about some of the things that have happened and some of the things that we want to see under an NRP administration, because there's no time for us to be talking about the Concerned Citizens Movement and what the Concerned Citizens Movement can bring or promises to bring, because in reality the Concerned Citizens Movement has proven that it will not deliver for the people of Nevis, and so it is time for us to look to the future. And the only way we can look to the future with hope is by working with the Nevis Reformation Party. So, Mr. Manners, what I've been up to has had a lot to do with ensuring that the people of St. Paul's can see a brighter future. For example, just a few days ago, or maybe about a week ago, I would have launched a school meals assistance program, for want of a better term, where the idea is to offer some assistance to one child each month attending the Charlestown Primary School who's enrolled in the school meals program. And a gentleman who does not have a child commented, what can you do with one child per month? Well, I told him to speak to someone with children and you will understand. And he did come back and say, boy, I really understand, because having spoken to a mother, someone in particular, a single mother, who has to provide meals for her children on a daily basis, all of their meals inclusive of snacks, you'll realize that it is not easy. And the school meals program on the island of Nevis is not free. As a matter of fact, a counterpart of mine from St. Kitts was surprised when they heard me say that I'm offering assistance for the school meals program, because she thought that it was free, because she reminded me that in her time on St. Kitts, it was free. And so she was quite shocked. However, I have said that every month, and this is not an election promise, because I plan to continue this even when I am elected, and notice I didn't say if. Even when I am elected to office, I plan to continue this, and I also have plans of expanding that program. But the idea is to offer assistance to parents in this regard. And there are many ways that I've been offering assistance. Back to school, yes, I don't take photos of everything, but I was able to assist some parents who were struggling with food, some with school supplies, and in some cases people come to me and say, JD, I know you're going to find someone who can benefit from this. Just make it happen. And I want to say thanks to those persons, many who go do not want to be mentioned, want their names to be mentioned, but I thank you so much for recognizing the need. And in some cases, they don't know who may require assistance, but they know that I know someone who requires assistance, and for putting your trust in me to assist these people. And so Yes, Mr. Manners, in a nutshell, that's just some of the things that I've been up to. We have some stuff coming up, and this evening I hope to talk about that.
So it's fair to say you've been fully invested. You haven't been resting on your laurels.
No, not at all, Mr. Manners. If I want people to recognize that they will have gains with canes, I have to be putting in the work, Mr. Manners. I forgot to mention too that, I try wherever possible and without any sort of payment to assist children sitting exams and writing SBAs, etc., because sometimes people need an additional eye to review things, and sometimes people call me all the time for homework assistance, and I try wherever I can, and that's something that I have been doing way before politics. That's just the person I am. So that's another thing that I was actively engaged in coming on to the end of the school year. And that, in the summer, we had our Culturama festival, and I love Culturama. This year I wasn't invited as a judge or host as I normally am. However, I was able to once again have Badai out front and center. That's my children's troupe. I can't remember how many children we had, but we had quite a few. We had a teen section for the first time this year, and we also had the regular Badai troupe. And by the way, Badai means future in Swahili, and it's a troupe that I normally put on for the cultural street parade, junior cultural street parade, and this year was no different. We had a wonderful time, and I want to thank the parents and guardians again who put their trust in me, and the children who came out and really had a great time for our cultural street parade. We didn't get to do it separate from the adults because it was inclement weather. We had inclement weather the day of the junior parade, and so they put it with the adults, but we showed up the adults, and we had even more fun than they did for the cultural street parade during Culturama. So that's another thing that I was actively involved in recently, Mr. Manners.
Girl, how you get it done?
I like to be busy.
I mean, you work full time.
Yes.
You're raising a daughter. By the way, I noticed she's now a 5th grader.
Oh my Lord! When I think about it, I just can't believe. Yeah, she's in grade 5.
And I realized she went off and had alligators around her neck.
Oh my, she's fearless, huh? She was holding alligators and snakes, and that's not something I would ever do. But she likes that kind of thing. So she had a snake around her neck, an alligator in her hand, and that's just the child.
That's the star.
That's the star.
I noticed you said you've been helping students as well. The overseas exams results came back last week. I'm sure you want to give a shout out.
Yes, I want to say congratulations to all of the children and adults, all of the persons rather, who sat exams, because we had some private candidates who were adults. So I want to say heartiest congratulations. I'm not going to go naming persons yet because I'm aware that some children have not yet received their grades. We have some subjects that came back ungraded, and not that would be the permanent status, as in ungraded permanently. There were some issues, and they're trying to sort that out. So we're going to wait for all of that to be clarified. I know one child in particular who's very close to me, got back some of their results, and I mean the subjects that they received ungraded status for, I mean, they know there's no way that they could have failed, and so they are just waiting, and it happened to a few others, so they're just waiting. But nonetheless, I want to say congratulations to the students who have already received their results. I'm sure many of you are proud, because remember, what you put in is what you're going to get out. And if for some reason you are not pleased, you're not satisfied with your grade, perhaps you got a failing grade, listen, it's not the end of the world. You can go right back and do it again. Many persons have done that. There's no shame in your game when you're trying to achieve a goal. And so if it is that you're not successful, feel free to go back and try again. And also, there are some persons who get a passing grade, but it's not the passing grade that they want, and they're contemplating redoing it. Listen, that's up to you. However, I tell you, listen, a pass is a pass. When it comes to these things, you're going to go off to university, and at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. So while I can't tell you not to resit it if you passed, I'm encouraging you, to look to the future. There are bigger things ahead. If I stopped where I was in sixth form, I mean, and stressed over my performance at the sixth form or even high school level, I would not have gone much further and now having a master's degree. So don't just focus on the now, you know, plan for the future. So heartiest congratulations to all of you, and of course to the teachers. The teachers don't get enough credit, and the parents who sit up at nights and we feel like we're going back to school as well. Yes, so congratulations to the teachers who put in the work, and congratulations to the parents and everyone else who served as a source of support and encouragement to the students who sat overseas exams this year.
Congratulations are so in order over the last couple of weeks. And of course, we got young Miss Huggins, the granddaughter of Wendell Huggins and Brenda Huggins. I'm sure Wendell is smiling. And I think she's the daughter of Richelle.
Sherez,
yes. That's the older
former
daughter.
classmate.
Of Vervains Hickman's.
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to be a judge at the event at the Nevis Performing Center when she emerged winner. And she's headed to the Cayman Islands to represent Nevis in the Caribbean Junior Minister of Tourism. That's awesome.
That's wonderful, 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 wonderful. Yes, I want to say congratulations to Kalia. I know Kalia well. And her mother and her uncle, because her mother is a twin. So her mother and uncle were my classmates for many years, and her grandmother was one of my favorite teachers. And so heartiest congratulations to Kalia. You know, when I saw the promotional video of Kalia on social media, I just smiled, because I can't believe this is little Kalia, you know, now representing her island. So it's great. It's absolutely great. And it just goes to show that, I mean, you can put in the work and achieve great things. So many of you may be looking at Kalia and thinking, wow, I want to do that. Well, you can do that. And I'm glad that we have this technological age where persons can see what others are actually doing, and it can serve as a source of inspiration and motivation to our young people, Mr. Manners.
Now, if you've got congratulations to share, you can join us at any time by calling 469-1616, 469-1700. It's a time when parents are glowing with pride, and don't be afraid to express it here on Your Voice with the NRP. Now, as I said earlier, we are 1 week away from the 39th anniversary of independence. It's being held under the theme Refocus, Recreate, Redesign, Independence 39. Next year, it's the big 40. What's your assessment of the state of the nation?
Mr. Manners, one of the things that I would like to see in St. Kitts and Nevis is a serious attempt at really developing the islands, and it comes with putting the petty politics aside and recognizing that something is good for Nevis and continuing with it, even if it wasn't your idea initially. Something is good for St. Kitts and continuing with it, regardless of which party is in power. Because one of the things I realize, especially on the island of Nevis, where we have to go to the polls so often, is that there is no real chance for you to develop the country if you are not very serious and focused. Because we have a situation where and I'll use our own situation here in Nevis, where the NRP was in office. The NRP left office in 2013. The CCM took office in 2013 and has maintained being in office since 2013. How many of the plans and programs that were there by the NRP that the CCM continued with? Case in point, the dialysis and the setting up of the dialysis unit, you know, that stopped. And I'm saying it shouldn't stop because a new government or new party is in power. And I'll say the same for the NRP. If the CCM is in government as it is right now, and the NRP wins the next election on the island of Nevis, and the CCM had something in place that can benefit the people of Nevis in a meaningful way, then the NRP ought to say this is good for Nevis and continue. And I think that that is something that is lacking in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I am hoping that as we get to year 40, that we can really start to turn these things around, because we must be really focused on development, Mr. Manners. The theme for this year, I think it's beautiful. It speaks to what we should be doing, not just the now, but what we should be doing, and it opens our minds to the possibilities that are out there. Same thing on the island of St. Kitts. We need to start to think long term, especially coming out of a pandemic where we realize that, we can have so many things in place. All of that can change in the blink of an eye. And so I am really hoping that as we enter our 40th year as an independent nation, we can really refocus our efforts and recognize that the progress and the prosperity and the development of St. Kitts and Nevis are what are important, rather than the petty party politics, Mr. Manners.
Now, you like the theme. What are your thoughts, though, on the independence program? And I'm speaking specifically of the Nevis end of things. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to pull up the program here, but Mr. Manners, I remember looking at the program earlier, and it seemed kind of dry. It didn't seem like there was much to celebrate. And I am not talking about spending lots of money. I am talking about having that national pride. One of the things I must say that I like, and it comes federally, is, the color day. And so every day, since Friday, every weekday since Friday, we've had a color of the flag that you're supposed to wear. So Friday was green, today was yellow, tomorrow is black, there's also white day, and there's red day. Okay, so it gives people an opportunity to quote unquote rep their flag leading up to independence, and that is good. And the schools will try to have their patriotic programs, but I find that these have also been watered down. And I don't want to see, as I'm seeing now, independence just be a time for us to get 2 days off, National Heroes Day and Independence Day. Talk a little bit about independence in terms of what the colors in the flag stand for, and that's it. I want it to be a source of education for the young people. I'm not finding that there is enough effort being put into that. And even with the projects, we know what's going to happen. The children are going to have homework to say, draw the flag, draw St. Kitts and Nevis, name the parishes, say who the national heroes are. Can we be a little bit more innovative in reaching the children? Can we be a little bit more innovative in reaching the adults? And even here in St. Kitts and Nevis, where we find that we've had an influx of persons from other Caribbean islands living here in St. Kitts and Nevis, what are we doing to get them to understand and appreciate our culture, our independence, how far we've come, And if I am to go a little bit further, it's a bit controversial, I won't get too deep into it, but it's quite ironic that it's a coincidence rather that the Queen Elizabeth II passed away so close to our independence,
and she's been buried on our Independence Day.
Yes, I'm told that she's going to be buried on our Independence Day, which is a little bit weird to me, considering that the relations. But my thing is, this is the perfect opportunity for us to be having some discussions on our own independence and where we see ourselves going. Is it that we want to stay as an independent nation? Do we want to go on to republic status? What do we want to do? And so I find that these are the things that we should be discussing and we should be seeing on the island of Nevis. We don't have to wait for St. Kitts. I just feel like we can be doing a little bit more. And for somebody who is into communications and information, that is one of the things that I find is lacking, getting that dissemination of information on the island of Nevis. And that's one of the things I really want to turn around if elected or when elected to the Nevis Island Assembly, because you must be educated, you must be a walking historian when it comes to Nevis's independence. Understand who the people are. We have people on the island of Nevis who have not yet been recognized, And that ought not to happen. And even some persons who have been recognized that people don't even know, because they're recognized this year and then that's it. You don't hear anything else about them. Where can I go in one location and find something to tell me all who received the Medal of Honor and the Star of Merit and all of that? That's lacking. That's lacking. And I want to see more dissemination of information around Independence Time.
Well, you're being very kind, because I frankly think there's so much lacking with the program and the people who planned it. There's a lack of foresight. It appears to me that the main idea is to have what they call a freedom concert, to bring in Jamaican bands. When it was launched, a friend in the Caribbean messaged me and said, "Really? That's what is your National Heroes Day? Go to Jamaica and do that." I'm not saying we shouldn't have Jamaican acts, but some people see it as a way to export scarce exchange, foreign exchange, or monies which can be used in more meaningful ways. But you hit it on the head when you said Nevis is lacking in patriotic pride. I can only say it the way I see it. Lacking in civic pride. The last three presenters here, Party Leader Janice, Dr. Bartlett and Ronald, stressed that. That was very evident in the elections. People were telling you, "I'm not going out to vote, I need money," etc.
Correct.
And so we have to get back to a place where there's patriotism and civic pride.
Correct.
And that is one of the areas in which I think the program is lacking. I'll give you a good example. The late Premier of Nevis died April 2nd. That's a mere 5 months ago. Why couldn't children in our schools be involved? He's the only two-time Premier of Nevis. Why couldn't the children in our schools be involved in an essay competition, an elocution competition, speaking about the life and times of Van Samry?
True.
It seemed that the men in his party is happy that he's moved aside, or he has been moved aside.
Of course.
There is no sort of reveling in what he has achieved for the people. So I think school children could have been involved in more meaningful ways.
I agree.
And I'm hoping for the 40th anniversary that Premier Janice Daniel will introduce a Premier's lecture series. Nevis is dying for intellectual stimulation. I remember a few years ago when Miss Chauce, Sherry Chauce,
Yes.
was the speaker at the Prime Minister's lecture series. She was so proud to invite people like Shirley Brown, her former teacher, and others to come to St. Kitts. Why can't a Premier of Nevis have a lecture series to give us some intellectual stimulation? And normally the speaker comes from the Diaspora. Both parties are engaged with our Diaspora. Bring somebody in to help us see things in a different light. And I could offer some topics. For instance, how do you stimulate the Nevis economy, or novel ways of stimulating the Nevis economy coming out of the COVID pandemic? That would be a good topic for somebody to come in, because those who are here and those who are charged with running the government certainly don't have the answer. And so we need to bring bright young people from outside who would stimulate people here to begin to see things in a new light. And there's so many other topics that could have been used. And as I said, I will hold Janice Daniel to that, Premier Janice Daniel. For the 40th anniversary, there must be a Premier's lecture series.
I like that, Mr. Manners, and you're so correct. Don't get me wrong. I, like many others, love the opportunity to let my hair down, have a good time. I have old ears, so I like the reggae and all of that. So I have no issue with a freedom concert. I have an issue with, though, prioritizing stuff and doing things without a purpose. So case in point, we will have a freedom concert, and I love the acts, I'm not going to lie.
It could have been held in Vance's honor, for instance.
Correct. I'm wondering, what can we do to ensure that some of our own division acts get that exposure, and they are able to have a workshop with some of these artists who come in here. Remember, we're not paying to attend the event, and so one must ask, where are the funds coming from? When you see the St. James Primary School, for example, which was 1 week delayed in its opening, being open today, but still not up to standard, in my opinion, as a parent.
Well, we've been seeing the videos.
As it should be. And many other schools not up to standard. Yes, we have the excellent teachers. And yes, the children have a building. And yes, they have desks. But come on. In 2022, we should be demanding more. When we were able to have a VIP section for Culturama, we injected significant funds to ensure that that is done. But then the schools, in my opinion, suffer. And so, while I am not knocking the concert, chances are you might see me there. Or any event that's meant to let people get their hair down. I'm saying the time has come for us to ask certain questions. Where is the money coming from?
Or what's the price tag?
What is the price tag?
A friend of mine on St. Kitts, who promotes events like this, told me that this could run us $250,000.
And again, there is no admission being charged, so you know that the money is not coming back from you. So these are questions that we have to ask. And like you said, Mr. Manners, find ways of making it about us. Make it about us. I remember back in the day attending concerts with the late Masood Siddiqui, and I felt just as I felt when I am overseas attending concerts with persons who are from the region, from Jamaica, and so I just want our people to get the opportunity to be out there more, and we have to, in order for us to do that, we have to start thinking for ourselves. And I have a problem. Somebody and I were having this discussion. I have a problem with our people saying, let's not just talk about what the government is doing wrong. Talk about what you will do differently. Don't get me wrong, I agree with them. We need to spend more time talking about what we are going to do differently. And if you follow me, you would realize that I try to do that as much as possible. But I will not ignore the fact that there are many things that this government is doing that is not right. And you won't know what's happening if somebody doesn't tell you, or if you're not seeing it, or maybe you're seeing it but you're not realizing what is happening. And so I think the onus is on me to help you to understand what is happening on the island of Nevis. And so that is why we should be asking questions such as, how much is it costing the people of Nevis, Mr. Manners?
Exactly. NEPAC, for instance, has been opened since April 28, 2012. So it's been 10 years.
Yes.
The NRP has come here on several occasions and talked about the orange economy. It's a new arm to your economy, developing young talent.
Yeah.
Akila Byron in St. Kitts, she started that program. She's no longer there, but it's a worthwhile venture. I would have liked to see $50,000 of that money put into a recording studio at NEPAC.
Okay.
So that young budding artists, once they've gone to the lectures organized by the artists who are coming in, so that they can share their expertise, can then have a training room here in Nevis where they can hone their talent.
Yes.
But simply say that you're bringing in acts as a tribute to your national heroes. And mind you, some of the same national heroes, most of them, apart from Simeon Daniel, are the ones who our leader says have in their DNA to give us bones in our rice and pepper in our soup. But he's putting in $250,000 concert on their behalf. You said there are many people on the island who have not been honored.
Correct.
In addition to this concert being a tribute to Van Samry, it could also be a tribute to some of our musical icons here in Nevis.
Correct.
You must bring some common sense to what you're doing. Not just lavishing dollars for everybody to have a free concert, and everybody needs to put their hair down from time to, I have got none, from time to time.
But Mr. Manners, allow me to jump in here. Listen, I need people to get away from this thing where it's either blue or green. Sometimes it is neither blue nor green, it is Nevis. It is neither blue nor green, it is Nevis. And we need to get to that point, because I see people making enemies on social media over blue versus green, when the issue is Nevis. The issue is Nevis. Case in point, there are people who are looking forward to an extra 5% recently. An extra 5%, and they were told that no money was there. And perhaps no money was there for sure. And we understood. We said, okay. But then where did the money come from all of a sudden? You can't expect me, a parent, to look at things the same way someone who has no responsibilities will look at it. I cannot go and buy a pair of shoes for $400 when I have nothing at home to eat. And that is how I look at things. That is how I can't see things any other way, because that is the dynamics that I am faced with. That is the dynamics that many persons around me are faced with. You understand? And so that is why I have to look at things from this level. I mean, I know so many persons, when they were going around to different bars and putting money here, putting money there, and giving you drinks. They would drink because they're thirsty, and then they go home and they vomit because they had no food in their tummies to hold up with the alcohol. You understand? And that is the reality of what is going on. You have people right now, Mr. Manners, who will tell you straight up, listen, I am struggling. So when they came election day or the day before election and they gave me the $500, I took the $500. But what they fail to realize is that you could still go and vote for whomever you want to vote. You have to vote for your future, because $500 or even $2,000 today and not again for another 5 years means really you're worth about what, $30-something a month? $30-something. That's what it's saying that you're worth. But why not instead look at a party that's willing to give you maybe a job that pays maybe $2,000 a month? Maybe if you can't reach it 2,000, you may reach $1,850 a month, whatever it is. But that every month for 5 years is far more than $2,000 now. And that is how we ought to think. You can't say, but I need it now. Guess what? The same people, follow me, who put you in a position to want or need that money now is the same people who are going to appear to come to your rescue. Mind you, they put you in a position to beg by not equipping you with the basics of life. They put you in a position to beg. They sent your electricity bill sky high by not subsidizing the fuel surcharge for months, and then coming afterwards and say we're going to subsidize the fuel surcharge for you to jump up and throw a party. But who sent it up in the first place? These are the things that we have to think about. So if they put you in a position to need, to want, to beg, and then come around tomorrow and give you something, are you going to throw a party? According to Rohan, that's thanking the ATM for giving you your own money. And we need our people to start to think on these things. We want you to think on these things. It has nothing to do with how many subjects you have at the CSEC level, at the CXC level. It has to do with basic common sense. It has to do with looking at what is happening in your community and deciding enough is enough. And telling yourself, yes, I didn't get all of what I wanted from this particular party, but I still think that it represents the best choice. And no, I am not going to sit at home for another election and allow somebody who is going to come to my country for 1 year, then go back to their country to decide my fate. These are the things that we need to be talking about. And guess what? It's no disrespect to anybody who has made Nevis their home and who has the right to vote having lived here 1 year. It's no disrespect. But I am saying that the people who have nowhere else to go, you can't pack up tomorrow, jump on a plane and go anywhere because you don't have anybody anywhere else. Nevis is all you know. You can't sit back and decide that you are not going to have a say in what goes on in your country and then turn around tomorrow and complain about what is not happening in your country. Who are you going to complain to? Surely not me.
You're listening to the very passionate J.D. Keynes. It's 6 minutes after 9. We'll take a break and we'll be right back with today's edition, or tonight's edition, of Your Voice with the NRP. Remember, you can join us on the line by calling 469-1616, 469-1700. We'll be back in a bit.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
And we're back with Your Voice with the NRP for Monday, September 12th, 2022. Now, months ago, J.D. Keynes, you came here and you spoke week after week about the shambles that the Nevis Netball Complex was in. Lo and behold, it got fixed. The leader of the NRP, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, said that on day one, after she takes office, she will remove the fuel surcharge. Lo and behold, it was removed. She say they didn't do it with the completeness that it deserves. The Premier at his press conference says that people are saying that the NRP says what is to be done and they just turn around and do it. It seems as if the NRP is calling the shots.
The NRP has been for a long time, and I think that is the reason why many of our persons hold the NRP at a higher standard than they do the Concerned Citizens Movement. Because I see people on social media very often criticizing the NRP for certain things when they won't hold the current administration, the one who has the power, the one who is able to do far more, accountable, you know. But I guess it's just because of the way the NRP has performed over the years that we expect a certain level of performance when it comes to the NRP, and so they know that it is because we say things why things happen. And I can see that definitely in Nevis, One Charlestown. I see that all the time. I mean, we talk about the netball complex, and I admit it's still not at the state that I want it to be. It's still not at the state that I want it to be. But nonetheless, I have no problem getting it to the state that I want it to be, because our spectators and our players deserve to be in a comfortable and state-of-the-art facility. Nonetheless, there's a netball complex. Then we have the ETW park that I realize some work is being done there. But if they think that they are just going to use some Tipex and put on the ETW park and then come back and say, here you go, we have a brand new facility, it's not going to happen. But again, it's because of the pressure that we continue to put on them that we see things being done on the island of Nevis. I am told that over by the Holy Water pier that some work is happening there. I didn't know, I heard that up to today, that some work is happening over there. And I know Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge in particular has spoken at length about the state of over there. And so, I mean, we talk, and people say, oh, well, I don't hush. But guess what? CCM is listening, because they look to us for guidance, and that's okay. We welcome it. Some people tell us to stop talking because they're going to steal our ideas. You see, we are not so much concerned about having all of the great ideas. What we want is for Nevis to be better. And if it means that when we talk, our government will go out there and act, then we will keep talking. Imagine what can be done if you give us the opportunity to perform, because we are only talking and we are getting results. We are getting some results when we talk. Imagine when we have that seat, we are the ones making the decisions. Can you imagine what Nevis would be like under an NRP administration with Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge as the leader, I think it's time for you to not only imagine but make it a reality.
Well, I understand that the work being done in the park. I haven't heard any official announcement of an improvement, but I heard it has to do with the lighting. They're upgrading the lighting. But we're putting the government on notice for the time it has remaining that some work will have to be done at the E.T. Willett Park. March 9th, 2023 will make 50 years since Willett became the first Leeward Islander to play Test cricket for the West Indies. There are lots of plans in the work. I've spoken to several persons who are prepared to make donations to the Nevis Sports Museum, and there are other activities being planned to mark that momentous occasion. And so if they're not prepared to do some work there, then of course they will step aside, and NRP will effect that work going into next year and for the big occasion. Nevis has not had a first-class game since January of 2010, all of 12 years. And of course we know that the CPL is going around, and they were in St. Kitts, lovely turnout there, and now in St. Lucia, well, they moved on to Trinidad this morning, and matches starting tomorrow night. Our sports people have been doing exceptionally well, but we are not matching the infrastructure with it.
Correct.
And I know you want to
Correct.
congratulate
Correct.
some of our sports people.
Correct, Mr. Manners. Yes, let me just pause here and recognize all of our sportsmen and women who continue to do great things. If I miss anybody, please join, chime in here. But we have Jaden Carmichael, who, oh my goodness, Jaden was just, I mean, Jaden really put on a show. He really put on a show recently. So we have Jaden doing great things in cricket. Onaje Amory again continuing to do great things. Carlon Bowen Tuckett again continuing to do great things in the area of cricket. Mr. Manners, I mean, what more can we say about our young men and young women who are just out there from a small island called Nevis doing great things? Our athletes were able to shine recently. Some of them have been doing some traveling, getting that exposure, and in cases where they haven't been at the top at the regional level, they continue to make good strides. I mean, I am so proud of Shamari Newton Roberts, we call him KJ, for all of the work that he has been doing, and others who continue to do great things. But imagine what the possibilities can be if we have the infrastructure and the programs in place, because you have to match the infrastructure with the programs, Mr. Manners. There must be a marrying component between the infrastructure and the programs. So yes, we have already proven that the children have the ability, they have the capacity. Now we want them to have the opportunity to go out there and do even greater things.
And of course, we had two footballers from Bath.
Oh yes. How could I forget those from Bath? We had Young Brown and who was the other one again? But both from the Bath United coming up under the Bath United Football Club, who continue to do great things. As a matter of fact, Chris Brown, who is the brother of Rocco Brown, I mean, they are just doing great things. Rocco Brown is our Mr. Cool, and he too, during Culturama or pre-Culturama, was away on national duty, you know. And so I just love to see our young people doing great things. We have Kezi, Colin Archibald, some of you know him as Kezron, I know him as Kezi, who again continues to do great thing in the area of cricket. So our people are performing. Our people are performing. But I maintain that if we have the infrastructure and the programs to match the infrastructure, they can be doing even more. And listen, another thing that I want to touch on, our athletes should not just be looked at when it's time for them to represent Nevis or represent their schools or their parishes. We have children, for example, and I take it at the basic level, who go out there and run their hearts out for interprimary, the Gulf Insurance Interprimary Sports Meet and the inter-school meet. and then we only see them again when it's time for the next sporting season. What are we doing to help these children along the way outside of the athletics? Are we saying, look, this child is a great athlete, but I want to make sure that he or she does good academically as well. I want to make sure that their home structure is fine, that they have meals to eat, and their parents are employed so that they could continue to provide for them. We have to have that marrying effect. And I maintain that when elected to office, these are the things that we are going to look at. Because we have children who run their hearts out for inter-primary, can't afford a textbook when it's time to go to high school. That should not happen. Go off and represent Nevis at meets regionally, and the parents' electricity bills getting cut, and the parents can't afford a pair of shoes, and the children aren't eating as they should. You know, these are things that are very real, and we need to ensure that they do not continue on the island of Nevis.
One of the things I've noticed over the years about awards, the diaspora is often not included. You listen to the list on Independence Morning, and people have been asking me who's going to be honored, etc. And they conclude that every year it's just a bunch of political hacks. The real people are not being honored. I believe that we have to pay far more attention to the diaspora. For instance, your schoolmate, Shervin Green, who recently got elevated to head coach at Monroe College, I contend should be an honoree for our Independence Awards. I don't know if they're taking notes. They'll probably add it tonight. But I guarantee you, as of this afternoon, his name is not on the list. We have to look overseas as well. I remember when the David Freeman Center was being built. I made a recommendation that Cicely Tyson, whose roots are in Nevis, that they should work along with her people to have some of her memorabilia placed there, which could be an added attraction. I heard pushback, people say, oh, she ain't done nothing for Nevis. Who she be? All that sort of thing. We got to be able to leverage people, Nevisians in the diaspora, or people with Nevisians connection.
Correct.
I saw this afternoon that they're naming a street in New York in short order after Cicely Tyson.
I saw that.
So I think we have to begin to do more, and not only engage the diaspora at election time. And while I'm on that, let me congratulate the diaspora groups, NEVDC in particular. In another couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks from now, my cousin Jelani Manners, very young man, now studying music in Jamaica, he's heading to Maryland to be honored. To be honored. And I really like that. I had that honor 3 years ago. And also Shalisa Glassford. Yes. And so the diaspora groups are doing so much for us here in Nevis. I'm not sure that we're doing enough for them. Correct. Maybe you could speak to that. And the Shervin Green thing, I know he's your schoolmate. And of
Since
course,
kindergarten.
And the special honor for Jelani Manners. Jelani Manners is the son of Chesley and Carol Manners.
And Shervin and Shalicia are products of the Charlestown Primary School.
You had to boast. Orange Nation.
Origination, if I can just throw that in there. But yes, Mr. Manners, you know, you raise a very, very good point. We have Nevisians out there who continue to do great things in the diaspora. And in the case of Shervin, I can tell you, he not only does great work out there, but Shervin is always ready and willing to assist at home as well. And so I totally agree with you that we need to start looking at that. I was a little bit worried a few years ago when I looked at some of the honorees, and I said, while I am all about recognizing people, we have to be careful what we are doing, how we are doing it, and when we are doing it. Because some of the honorees, in my opinion, we are honoring them for doing the job that they were paid to do. What happened to the people who went the extra mile and did work that they were not paid to do? It was voluntary service. You know, the teachers who, when they finished teaching, they did extra classes at no cost. The persons who, and so that is something that really bothered me. I just felt like it became, let's just honor my friend, or an election is coming, let's give this person the award because we might lose and they would never get an award. Things like that I have an issue with. So I agree with you that we need to start thinking outside of the box. Even when we don't agree, we still need to think outside of the box, and I think that is something that is missing with this administration. There is not enough creativity being pushed out there. It's kind of the same old every time. But I just want to congratulate Shalicia in advance, Shalicia Glassford and Jelani Manners, two young people from the island of Nevis who are very much loved here on the island of Nevis and well respected because of how they carry themselves and just their whole demeanor, and for the work that they have been doing. So, and I want to really shout out the NEVDC group for recognizing the work of these young people. That is motivation for others. That is motivation for others, because traditionally you hear of the more seasoned persons receiving these awards, but in this case, two young, bright people. That's wonderful. So kudos to all involved.
I'm sure you want to take a minute to congratulate some of our teachers, some of whom have retired. Some of whom have moved up to be head teachers. Some of them are fairly young. We have to give honor where honor is due, and I know you're very strong in education.
Yeah, Mr. Manners, I actually have a note here to talk about back to school. And I recognize, I don't have all the names yet, but I recognize that we have had some shuffling in the education ministry on the island of Nevis. And so some of our teachers have retired, having put in years and years and years of service, and we want to say thank you so much to them. Kudos to Rohan, my colleague Rohan Iles, who has been doing, in my opinion, a pretty good job of recognizing some of these teachers and the work that they have done. I want to mention teacher Claire Carey, very quiet lady, doesn't really talk much, she doesn't like the spotlight, but she's one who has retired, and I mention her because she most recently taught at the Charlestown Primary School, and she's originally from Kodak Road. And so teacher Carey has retired, and I say thank you for your years of service, as well as to all the other teachers who have retired. I also see that teachers from St. Paul's have elevated and have moved on, and I want to congratulate them. We have Nicola Fraser, who was a teacher at the Charlestown Primary School. She's no longer at the Charlestown Primary School. I'm told that she has been elevated, so I want to congratulate Teacher Fraser. Teacher Fraser knows that I love her dearly. She's very committed to her work. She taught my adopted daughter, and it was just a breath of fresh air, the level of dedication of Teacher Fraser. I'm going to be honest, I am going to be selfish. I really want her in the classroom because I think that she has so much to offer in the classroom, but I understand that there comes a time when people want to try something new. So kudos to Teacher Fraser, and even if you're not in the classroom, please find a way to still help the children at that level, because you're so good at that. We also have another pleasant young lady, not originally from St. Paul's, but now residing in St. Paul's, in the person of Akila Brand. Akila has been elevated as well. Akila is now a principal. She has been teaching for a few years, couple of years well, and she paused and went off to study, and she came back, was a teacher again, and she is now a principal. Now, one of the things you need in a teacher and in a principal is someone who is very caring, and that is Akila. If you know Akila, you know she's a very caring person, always laughing. She laughs even before you tell the joke. She's always laughing, very warm. So kudos to Akila, and to all others who have been elevated. I'm paying more attention to those in the St. Paul's area, but to all of our teachers, kudos to you. From Bath, I know that in my time she was Miss Ward, but she's Mrs. Doe now. Jasmine Ward Doe. She has been elevated to the post of principal at the Charlestown Secondary School. So
I didn't know that.
Yes, so I want to congratulate Miss Ward, Mrs. Duo now, for on her promotion, and all others who have been promoted. I'm still trying to figure out where some of the teachers have gone. I know they are no longer there, but I'm not sure where they have gone to. I'm told that a lot of people have been transferred to the education department, but I'm still awaiting confirmation because I'm trying to figure out where everybody will fit. But that's the rumor. Teacher Lisa Lee, call her Lisi, she too has been elevated. Lisa is one of the nicest, most caring teachers you would meet. She was at the early childhood level, and she too has been elevated. So kudos, Lisi. And I mean, all teachers. If I start to talk about teachers, I'll be here all night because I mean, we really have had some good teachers, and I could speak for my child. My child is at Charleston Primary now, and I've had some good teachers to date, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I've had some really good teachers for her to date, and I'm just hoping that it continues. So the teachers don't get enough credit, you know. So kudos to them, and just continue to do the great work that you're doing. And in cases where you know you've fallen short, just tell yourself, listen, I can do better. Recognize that you can do better and do better.
Yep. You had mentioned the work that Rowan Isles has been doing in highlighting some of these promotions. And of course, Akila Brand is his sister.
Yes.
He pointed that out when he was here 2 weeks ago. And what he wrote, there's something I found very neat. Barbara Hendrickson has been teaching at the Gingerland Primary from 1982 to 2022. 40 years in the same school. That's an amazing feat by any stretch of the imagination. But Barbara taught Akila in kindergarten. Rowan Isles pointed that out. And now Akila has risen to be principal of the proud Joycelyn Liberd Primary School.
Mr. Manners, I want to make a comment about education though. One of the things I think we need to be looking at, and it's something that is very near and dear to me, is the long-term goal. So for example, I want to see, you must know what you must have a strat plan. You must have a plan for 3 years, 5 years, something. And I don't want to see decisions being made like on impulse. And so, in my opinion, if you see J.D. Keynes as somebody who you want to elevate, I think start grooming J.D. Keynes early. So J.D. would go to deputy, and J.D. would become part of the management team of the school. J.D. would become the deputy, and then J.D. would become a principal. It doesn't always have to follow that order, don't get me wrong, and then situations would come up that you may have to make a change. But we need to have a strat plan in place, okay? So for example, I find what is happening is that, or what has happened is that so many persons have gone to the education department. I'm wondering how many of them knew that is where they would be going, so they could have begun to prepare themselves for this new post. Or even in the case where teachers are shifting grades or shifting positions, how many of them knew that is what would be happening so that they could prepare themselves? I think that's one of the things that I really want to see happening. We really need to plan. We need to have a strat plan. We need to know that this is where we want to get to, and so these are the things we need to do to get to that point. Additionally, I still don't believe we have enough teachers, and I'll tell you why I say that. All teachers don't have to be on the same level, Mr. Manners, but I do believe we can do with a few more teachers. We have a situation where you have a class of, let's say, 20 children, and 5 of them are up there. They are brilliant. You couldn't ask for anything better. There is no middle, but then 15 are way at the bottom. And that happens sometimes, Mr. Manners. But you have one teacher who is expected to reach all 20 of these children. That is a lot on a teacher, Mr. Manners. It's almost impossible to happen, Mr. Manners. And so I believe if we have additional teachers and we are strategic in our approach, and this is something that I want to push, and we are strategic in our approach, we can have the necessary attention being placed on these children, whether the 5 who are up there because you don't want to keep them back, and the 15 who are struggling because we need to get them up to where they need to get to. And so with an additional teacher, a teacher's aide, for example, that can happen, Mr. Manners. And I don't think we are seeing enough of that. I think it will create employment. I know it will create employment on the island of Nevis, and that is something that we need, but it will also be down to the benefit of our children, because that big gap, and it would lessen the stress and the pressure on the teacher, Mr. Manners. And that's one of the things I really want to push on the NRP administration. It will not happen overnight, and it will not be the case in every situation. It would not be the answer to every situation or every problem, but it is something that we need to think seriously about, Mr. Manners, and the time has come for us to do that.
J.D. Keynes, doesn't she sound like the incoming Minister of Education? I think so. It's 9:31. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll put some focus on your constituency.
Yes.
Because we know you're number one in number one. We'll be right back.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Manners and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
9:32, and we're on the home stretch of tonight's edition of Your Voice with the NRP. I know you're engrossed wherever you are, but you've been very quiet. You're free to join us in the remaining minutes. 46916, 469 1616, 469 1700. Now, JD, for the first time in 2 years, we didn't hear at the Premier's press conference that the hospital is moving apace. They're hoping it goes off the radar, because there's no way it will be anywhere near completion before the next election. So they're trying to move it off the front burner. What are you hearing about the hospital?
Mr. Manners, it's really sad, the state of our hospital. We understand that because of the population on the island of Nevis, we will not have all of the services that we want. We understand and we can appreciate that. But for us to be operating with not even the basics in 2022 is shameful. And it's an indictment on this government, Mr. Manners. It speaks to the failure of the Premier of Nevis, who is the Senior Minister of Health, and his entire cabinet, Mr. Manners. Because I don't understand why in 2022 we have to go to St. Kitts for everything, or we have to go overseas for everything, Mr. Manners. And look at the health centers, for example. The health centers can do with some generators. The health centers can do with some generators, Mr. Manners. We have nurses who have reached retirement age, ready to go home, and they some of them come back. But then what's happening now? You're coming back. You're already getting your pension from government, already getting your pension. And what the government is doing is deducting that amount and paying you the difference. And I'm saying that is wrong. You know why? Because your pension is earned. You worked for that. That is yours. That means you're not properly compensating me for the work that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. If it is that we do not have the funds to pay you a full salary, then surely we can work out something in the meantime. But to give you just the difference, no, I have a problem with that, Mr. Manners, because it is not that we have a lot of nurses. Hold
your thought, JD. We've got a first caller for the evening. Good evening. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Manners, and good evening, Miss Kane.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I couldn't let your program conclude unless I make a little input.
Okay.
We're happy for that.
Well, I know you all shift to the political side of it, but I have a suggestion for you all. On the news today, I heard about the amount of wild stray animals that harassing the people of Nevis in whatever crop they're planting and whatnot. And I have been calling on both islands for them to really do something about those load of wild stray animals. Now, nobody's supposed to have no dog roam in the streets and free. Dogs supposed to be fenced, tied, or kennel. Because when people dog bite somebody in the street, they don't have no owner.
That is true.
So therefore, I am so glad that the Ministry of Agriculture putting on the foot on these stray animals. Now I have a suggestion. Since Nevis have so many wild donkeys, I think somebody should capture a few of them, and at least they could have a donkey derby. Wherever they choose to have it, as long as they don't destroy the outfield.
Actually, I saw that in, I think it was Antigua the other day. They were having, I think it was goats.
Yes.
And I think in Tobago they do the same thing. A donkey derby where?
Well, you could have it down where they have the horse racing in Nevis. Where that be? Newcastle?
No, that's Indian Castle.
Oh yeah, Indian Castle. Yeah. They could have a donkey derby down there.
It's going to take a lot of refurbishment. The donkeys wouldn't know where to go.
Well, they have to be trained.
No, but the track down there is in a poor state. It has been overrun. Lots of acacia trees, broken fences. It's in a very dilapidated state.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we could bring it to Grove Park.
Yeah. Oh, sure, man. closer to the population, the greater population.
Yeah.
But I can tell you something I learned in St. Thomas, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna get into horse race, never buy a stallion, buy a mare.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a horse race, all the stallion run behind the mare. So you may run come first.
That's so funny.
But yes, we do have a problem on the island of Nevis as it relates to stray animals. I mean, sometimes you're in Charlestown, the capital city, driving around or walking around, and you see stray animals just right there. In the capital city, going through.
Well, you said
the
stray
dogs.
animals. There were some cattle.
Well, those are
walking right across where the Nevis Cooperative Bank is a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, you know where a lot of them used to hang out? When you turn off to go over in Prospect, it had some trees there. A lot of them used to be under some trees. When they touch you, I think they have a kind of cash out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of them in there one time, and I was afraid to pass.
You said they're hanging out?
Yeah. Yes, well, Nevis really got wild people.
Well, we
appreciate. I could make a lot of money from them.
Yeah.
Good attraction for the economy.
I mean, we laugh, but it's something that we really need to look at. And just recently, the Ministry of Tourism, in its essay competition, asked the children to look at these kinds of things. I know because my daughter had an essay, and when I looked at some of the ideas that she had, I laughed, but they were quite innovative, and I thought, that's a good perspective, and I'm hoping that the ministry will take these essays and not just have the children write and get a prize and that's it, but pass on some of these ideas, because they were quite interesting to see. It was quite interesting to see what the children came up with. But sir, I thank you so much for that, for your input.
Those are on the ground ideas. You don't have to go college to have those ideas.
Correct.
Okay, I'll continue to listen. Have a good night.
Yes,
Thank
you too, sir.
Thank you very much. Certainly the caller is saying that we have issues, for sure. They've been long-standing. But there can be creative ways to put them to use. Having the donkey derby, I mean, there are going to be plenty other donkeys which are not in the race. I was standing outside Rhonda's place by the Pinnis Park yesterday afternoon and reading the notice board, and I noticed one of the things is no pets allowed on the Pinnis Park. And so when I marveled at it, there were some other people standing around and said, you expect the dogs to go on to the Pinnis Park and they will have to clean up after. So we had a good laugh about it. But here's a park stipulating that. Yet on the island's main road, you see dead donkeys from time to time.
Yeah.
You see dead dogs.
Yeah.
There has to be a solution.
Somebody on the chat is asking, and the live is asking, whatever happened to the dog farm? Because I remember that.
Yeah.
You know, a couple
Over in
years
St.
back.
James.
Yeah, it was
James.
announced that we were supposed to have a dog farm that never materialized. But yes, Mr. Manners, before we get into the constituency, though, I wanted to touch on something quickly as it relates to education. Recently, some new school rules or some adjustments were made to the schools, particularly for the secondary school level, as it relates to here. And I will say this: I commend those involved for taking a stand and, improving or making better what we had. However, I call on you to do more. I have a problem with us being so rigid when it comes to children's hair, particularly our blackness, our Africanness. I wear natural hair, and it's not the easiest to comb, I'll be honest. It's not the easiest, and I have a lot, so that's one of the reasons why you would see me at the braids. But when you see me do a twist out, that's where you have your natural hair braided and then you twist it out. It is beautiful. I do it on my daughter all the time. Absolutely beautiful. This involves no chemicals. This involves no extensions. None of that. This is your own hair. And you can't wear that style to school in Nevis. Your own hair. And I have a problem with things like that. The fellas have to cut their hair, and I'm trying to figure out what that has to do with their ability to learn. I'm saying yes, you should look tidy, and yes, some rules should be put in place. But when are we going to get away from this colonialism type of thing? And as far as I'm concerned, we are left to somebody's personal opinion as to what we should look like. I remember years ago when my father protested as it relates to, wearing dreadlocks in school, and people were looking at him and saying he's silly and why he don't go sit down. But look at it now. Something that the children and St. Kitts were able to do for years, had been able to do for years, was not happening on the island of Nevis. But we see children going to school with dreadlocks now. We see children going to school with dreadlocks now. And I think that while the education officials have taken a step in terms of allowing the young ladies to wear braids, I still think there's more that can be done, because I don't understand why you can't go to school with a twist out. I don't understand why you can't wear braid to school. I don't understand why the young men have to have their hair 1 inch in length. These are things that I have a problem with, and I think it's time for us to move forward and just be more modern in our way of thinking. And I can assure you that when elected, these are some of the things that you will see under a progressive NRP administration. It's time to think outside the box, Mr. Manners. So I just wanted to drop that one in.
Now, you mentioned the colonialistic mindset. Ironically, the Queen is being buried on our Independence Day. The Queen has been around for so long, 70 years. I think it has provided us with a golden opportunity to evolve as a country. We already hear the drumbeat in Jamaica. We hear it from Gaston Brown, one of the most forward-thinking leaders in the Caribbean. And this is not a party position. I'm asking your personal position. Should St. Kitts and Nevis contemplate becoming a republic?
Of course, Mr. Manners. Of course. If we, this is something that we've talked about for years. Maybe not in depth, but persons have spoken about this for years. My question is, before you get up and say, yes, let's do it, let us at least contemplate. And in that contemplation, let us ask ourselves, what are the benefits that we are gaining right now? What have we gained with having independent status? I used to think, growing up, I thought independence was the thing, because just the name alone suggested that you're free from everything, you're free from everyone. But then as I grew older, I realized it is not so. You're still under colonial rule. And so again, I try to be, it's just me, I'm forward thinking. Maybe it's because of the people who raised me and the community in which I came up. But it's time for us to start looking at this. And if we weren't sure before, we don't have to look too far. Look at some of the other islands in the region, and let's be part of the discussions that they are having, so that we can best determine what is the way forward for us.
Our friends in Dominica didn't wait a day. From the very day they became independent, they moved to Republican status. Trinidad independent in 1962, and they moved to that status in 1976. We're going on 40 years. And so I hope that the debate will begin on Independence Day, on the day that the Queen is laid to rest, for St. Kitts and Nevis to begin the journey to Republican status. We've got 13 minutes more, and I know you've got to address a couple more things in your constituency.
Yes, Mr. Manners, people of St. Paul's may be saying, yes, I know that we are not getting all that we should be getting. Yes, I know that we haven't had the best level of representation, but it's okay. And we don't want to try something new. We want to stick with what we know. I'm saying, if everything or everybody in life took that approach, we would be in a very sad state. If time and time again an administration has come to you and said that they will do this, they will be different, they will deliver, and they have proven that they will not do it, they will not deliver, and they have not changed, what do you think will happen when you reward them for another time? Nothing will change. And while in St. Paul's we may have a candidate for the Concerned Citizens Movement who you like because he has good manners and he smiles at you, the fact remains, it is not who you like, it is who is capable. And if you had a representative who was capable and competent and forceful and had your best interests at heart, we would not have to find out accidentally about a private deal. A private deal. Something that you couldn't pull off on your own. We would not have to have a situation where other constituencies get things and St. Paul's comes dead last. We would not be in that situation. So forget about who you like and forget about who is safe, and think about who is innovative, think about who is passionate, and think about who is competent. Because I tell people all the time, in the Nevis Reformation Party we have already established that yes, there's a lot of work to be done, and yes, we will not have a lot of resources to begin with because of the poor management, fiscal management of the current administration. We understand all of that. However, because we have a team of innovative people and we already have things in place where we're talking about how we will go about securing funds and cutting and cutting costs, etc., we already understand that every single constituency from 1 right around to 5 will get its share of representation. Because can you imagine the Honorable Cleon Stapleton Simmons, for example, going out there and asking the people of St. Thomas's to vote for her again, and then she not getting an opportunity to deliver for them? That's not going to happen. The same way that's not going to happen in Nevis 1, because all 5 of us already understands that, listen, we need to do for our people. It is they who put us here, and we need to ensure that they reap. And I am saying that is not happening in Nevis 1 at this point in time. Maybe the intentions are good, but the delivery is bad. And we are not here to feel sorry for anybody and say, man, they mean well. They meant well, but they did not do well. And we need to call a spade a spade. We need a strong representative. We need J.D. Keynes. We need a competent representative. We need J.D. Keynes. We need a representative who is not an easy walkover. We need J.D. Keynes. We need a representative who we are not going to see once every 4 years. We need J.D. Keynes. We need a representative who is going to talk to you even when you disagree with them. We need J.D. Keynes. We need a representative who can relate to the needs of the people because they are ingrained in the society that they are representing. We need J.D. Keynes. St. Paul's, for the capital to be in your constituency, you must be number one. There is not enough happening in St. Paul's for us to be the home of the capital, and I want to change that. You know that I am capable, you know that I am competent, and you know that I can do a far better job than the current representative, because one of the things I plan to do is ensure that there is a constituency day, so you don't have to wonder when you're going to see me next. It is something that I will do.
Hold your thought for a minute. We've got another caller on the line. Good evening. Welcome to Your Voice with the NRP. Good evening, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, could you lift your voice, please?
Good evening, yes. I am calling to ask a question, yes, please, because...
Could you lift your voice? You're a little low.
Republican thing. I thought when you say you're going Republican, you could stand on your own and do things that you want for yourself instead of have to run to the IMF. Because I make you understand that Mia Matley is going to go to the IMF for alone. So I thought when you go Republican, you could control it on your own instead of have to go to the IMF.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a pleasant night.
Okay, thanks for that.
Calling.
So remember, the IMF, or just for your benefit, the IMF is not the queen or the monarchy. Okay, the IMF, when Barbados, for example, decided that it wants to approach the IMF, or any other island decided it wants to approach the IMF, it's seeking financial assistance from the IMF. Just like you, when you want to get a loan, you're going to go to a financial institution in Charlestown. I'm not going to mention which one you should go to, but we all know which one you should go to. However, you go to a financial institution when you want to get a loan. It's the same thing. So you go there, you ask for assistance, they give you assistance, and then you repay. That is what it is. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it. When you talk about Republican status, it means that you are not pledging allegiance to the Queen, to the monarchy, or anything like that. You will have a president who will be one of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Your structure will be such that you are making your own decisions, and perhaps one of those decisions may be to seek additional funding from an international organization or a regional organization such as the IMF. So that is what it is. Being Republican means that you have some freedom, but it has nothing to do with your ability to seek additional help. It means that you're not swearing to the Queen or the monarchy, the king in this case, or the monarchy or anyone like that. You are responsible for your state of affairs. That's me putting it as simply as possible, trying not to get too fancy and with the language.
Yeah, well, there are many people who seem to think that there are fully independent countries in the world who can supply everything that they need. Mm-hmm. For the record, Barbados has been with the IMF, and I think they're looking for additional loans. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Countries from time to time find themselves in difficulties, and nobody can say that Mayor Motley is not one of the most proactive leaders in the Caribbean.
Innovative
but
as well.
Historically, we've been in colonialism, or we've had colonialism in excess of 300 years. Mm-hmm. And it's putting the vestiges of colonialism behind you, mm-hmm. and charting a new course.
Correct.
So there are many aspects you can look at, And simply to move to a Republican status doesn't mean that you are so independent that you could live in utopia. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We've got 5 minutes. You've got more
Yeah.
words for us.
Yeah.
The NRP, of course, hasn't got the benefit of the Treasury. In 2019, when Third World and Steel Pulse were brought here, we were told that there was sponsorship from a bank. That is, we haven't heard this time around, so the assumption is that the money comes from the Treasury.
It's my money.
But nonetheless, the NRP is having a function as well
Yes.
on National Heroes Day.
Yes, on National Heroes Day, the NRP will be having a fun day. We just want family and friends to come out and, just lay your hair down on that day. We'll have lots of activities, all kinds of creative competitions, from dominoes to eating. We have something for the children. Food and drinks will be on sale. We'll have musical entertainment as well. Lots of camaraderie. It's going to be great. It's going to be at the Villa Grounds in Charlestown. And so I encourage you to stay connected to the NRP's social media pages for additional details. There's no admission fee. It is intended to be an afternoon into the evening affair where you just come out with your family and friends and have a wonderful time. So I'm encouraging everyone to come out. It's at the Villa Grounds. We try to make it central so that people from all the constituencies can benefit. And it doesn't matter your political affiliation, just come out and have a grand time. It's for National Heroes Day, something different that you can be a part of, and I can assure you that we'll have something for everyone. Mr.
And you're guaranteed, of course, that 250,000 won't take flight from the government coffers.
Correct. Mr. Manners, I want to use the last couple of minutes that I have here to just speak quickly about some of the things that I really think can happen and I really want to see. Healthcare is something that is very, very important, Mr. Manners, and I don't think we are putting enough attention to healthcare. I want to commend the Health Promotion Unit. They've been quite creative and they're really doing a good job of promoting good health on the island of Nevis. I love them dearly and I try to support their activities. But in terms of the administering of care on the island of Nevis, we really need to pay greater attention. And I don't know how many of you realize, but we need nurses. I realize that we have an influx of nurses from the Philippines, for example. And while I have no issue with persons coming from other countries to work here, what is the end goal? What happens if tomorrow they decide I want to pack up and leave? You're less likely to see that happening with persons from your island. So what I'm saying is, let them come, yes. Work here, yes. But it must mean that we have our people in training to take up these roles after. It must mean that we have our people working alongside to learn some of their skills, and that is something that I definitely want to see. We in the NRP will really deal with the outreach to ensure that we get additional nurses on the island of Nevis. And if it means that we have to incentivize people to be nurses, so be it. And it doesn't always mean giving them additional money, Mr. Manners, but people want houses and some persons cannot go to the bank. And if it means, imagine we are paying you, so we can take out the money that is needed to pay your mortgage on a monthly basis. So if it means that we can work out something for the nurses, trust me, I already have something drafted that we are looking at, because we cannot operate in a country without healthcare professionals. And I don't think we are realizing what is happening on the island of Nevis. We need more nurses and we need them to be our own, because it speaks well for the long term.
I saw you sporting your green shoes on Sneaker Day.
Yes.
You've been listening to J.D. Kane, very passionate about the work she intends to do for the people in constituency number 1. She's number 1 in number 1. You're assured of gains with Canes. We're at the top of the hour, and that's our show. This edition of Your Voice with the NRP. Don't think we'll be here next Monday because it's Independence Day, but we'll most likely have a rebroadcast of the dynamic J.D. Keynes. Good night.
Mr. Manners, good night, and thank you very much for having me. I don't want to leave without saying happy birthday in advance to my sister Rondi Pinney, who's celebrating tomorrow. We love you, Auntie Rondi. So happy birthday, and to everyone who's been listening, have a wonderful National Heroes Day and Independence Day when it comes around. When they come around, have a wonderful evening.
We're out. Good night.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
With all the power from the tower, this